Oi punters, in other news, Labor and Liberal have just teamed up to screw you and rig the next election. Well, not the next election, but the one after that for sure. Gotta warn you though, it gets pretty boring pretty quick. So just, no, come on, stay with me. Nah, come on. Oi, real quick, if you could just sub to the channel. I'm trying to get to 100k before the end of the year. I think we punters can get there. Anyway, shut up, Conrad. Get on with it. Here's an Instagram reel I made about this topic for you short attention span punts. But stick around and I'll explain the boring, super interesting detail after it. Let's take a watch.
Oi, have you seen this? What? Primary vote for both of us is at a record low. Can you believe this? What, people aren't voting for either of us? Not anymore. Fair dinkum, we've lost 7 seats. We need to fix this now. I suppose we could stop manufacturing fake political fights with each other and start listening to Aussie punters, maybe pass some legislation that actually solves some big problems. You mean like housing? Yeah, crack down on corporate monopolies, supermarkets, banks. We could solve our budget problems by making those fossil fuel bludgers actually pay us for the resources they take. Or we could just pass this bill that'll make it near impossible for anyone to compete with us at the next election. You mean like rig the rules? Yeah, how do we do it? Oh, it's easy. Just limit how much everyone else can spend in an election to this much. And then put a limit on us of this much. Like what you did in Victoria. Yeah, that should eliminate our competition, and then everyone can go back to voting for one of us. Won't Aussie punters get sus? No, we'll just say we're getting money out of politics or something. Whoa, you're going to ban our corporate membership fees and your union fees that billionaires give us? Nah, they don't count. Can we still charge billionaires $14,000 to have dinner with us? Hold fundraisers? Of course we can. When do we do it? Well, if we team up, we can just ram it through today before anyone has any time to read this thing. Look at it. Done. Oh, what are we going to pretend to fight about this week? You just keep banging on about nuclear, then you attack us about renewables, and we'll just go back and forth. Should look pretty good, I reckon.
All right, we'll get to the detail of this bill in a minute for you punts who are interested, freaking nerds. But why are Labor and Liberal both, without debate, without public discussion, without public attack, P. Dutton's been dead silent on this, behind closed doors, done a deal and sifted this through as quickly as bloody possible? Why would both parties team up to get this bill through? Is it because it's a really great bill and is really good for everybody? Or is it just a good bill for Labor and Liberal? What would be their motivation behind it? Let's play a little game. Conspiracy or coincidence? Might this have something to do with it? 2 years ago, votes for Labor in the last election, votes for Labor and the coalition plummet to all-time lows with swings away from major parties. Not great. And then if you're the Liberal Party, you're facing some level of destruction with such low levels of support for the coalition among voters under the age of 50 should be of concern. Boring things of graphs here. This is like a right-leaning think tank, so they're obviously being like, oi, we're kind of screwed because young people aren't voting for us. I wonder why. The coalition could lose the next 6 elections because millennials and Gen Z voters aren't shifting towards conservatives as they get older. 35 seats. Not looking good. There are no safe seats. Major parties have to get used to independent thinking. Or do they? The concerning trend continues. The steady decline of voters choosing major parties is reshaping Australian politics, and this is the shape it takes. The trend is up and up for non-major party vote. So clearly people are disaffected with the 2 major parties. So they're going somewhere else. And rather than Labor look at this and go, hey, maybe we could change our behavior and actually do something about this stuff, I guess it's just easier to rig the rules. Pocock, those buttons are doing some heavy lifting, keeping in that rig. Independents have accused Albanese government of attempting to rig the election rules. Now, why are they talking about rig the election rules? Because they're setting the rules of the game to substantially advantage the major established players. Now, the question is to you punters, are you happy with that? Are you happy for the 2 major parties to have such an advantage that you always have 2 major parties ruling us? Kind of like, I don't know, America. So is this what they're trying to do? Well, let me introduce to you the Donfather, as they've dubbed him. Wish I could take credit for that nickname. That is a great nickname, the Donfather. This is the bloke who has cooked up these rules really quite quickly as you possibly can. No one ever heard anything about this until 2 weeks ago, and bang, it's through. Farrell told a small group how the Climate 200 convener had approached him to complain about his proposed changes, that the election donation laws would entrench the two-party system and lock out challengers. Sounds like a rigging. And the Donfather quipped, "That's the effing point." So, saying the quiet part out loud, very openly, he says, well, that's how the Westminster system works. People disagree with this. They don't believe that the Westminster system was designed to just have two dominant parties. But clearly, the Donfather thinks that is the case, and then has set about designing the rules to make it so. Before we even look at the bill, a lot of red flags. Labor, Liberal teaming up, no public debate, pushing it through as fast as bloody possible. So, let's take a look at the bill and then the likely consequences of that bill. 8 things you need to know about the government's plan to change Australian elections. From the Australian Institute, Bill Brown. He's done a good job to try and simplify the snooze fest of legislation that we get into. There are, in fact, some good things about this bill, which I point out as we go along, but also some really not good things. The TLDR of this, they're going to increase public funding. So every time you go to vote, that number one will give $3 per vote to whichever candidate, and it comes out to like $6 of taxpayer money is distributed. So you kind of get to determine where that money goes to help each party with the next. They're proposing to up that to $5, which would cost another $41 million. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with public funding, me personally. I just want you to turn off the effing taps from the other rich boys that stroll in with their checkbooks to buy you out. There will be new administrative funding. So now they're going to allocate administrative funding kind of based on the size of the political party. This results in $8.1 million for Labor, $4.7 million for Liberals, $1.6 million for the Nats, and $0.9 million for the Greens. New parties and candidates get sweet FA. New parties have to use their own money to pay for this, which we'll come to later, counts towards their cap. Whereas this money, the spending on administrative stuff, doesn't count towards the cap. Now, this is how much money is kind of being distributed. So how does any of these sorts of people compete with these sorts of people? Then there would be caps on donations to fund campaigns. So caps on political donations. This is the next wizardry that they pull to make sure that more money flows to them. If you're going to change the rules about where money flows, make sure more can flow to you than your competition, and you will still be all good. So gifts to fund election campaigns are capped at $20,000 per year. So federal elections once every 3 years, one person can donate to a political party 60 grand a year, but with loopholes. And the loophole is that there are actually 9 registered Labor parties. Well, would you look at that? So that you can give them $180 a year or $720,000 a year. So that's your cap for the Labor Party. And then the Liberal Party has 8, and the National Parties has 5. So someone can still donate over $1 million to the coalition every single cycle. But if you're an independent, you are one person and you don't have a team, you don't have parties, you don't have all of this stuff, you can get just the one $20,000 per year. That's it. So a max of $60,000 from the one person. Good if you can get it. Obviously, there are kind of defenses for this. Well, like that's in different states and different things and party machines. But you can see the beginnings of how the rules are being rigged. The rules are being rigged to say if you are a political party, you will have inherent advantages, despite the Australian population saying we are sick of those two political parties. So they're trying to push us to have these political parties and not independents. And that can be a debate punters can have in the comments below. Feel free. Whether we should force political parties on people. But that is what the rules are doing. So some politicians in the Liberal Party found a loophole almost straight away. So in Queensland, the Liberal Party is the Liberal National Party. It's one political party. Everywhere else is the Liberal Party and the National Party, and they join together as a coalition. Hang on, I thought coalitions were bad and would just cause chaos in Parliament. Oh, I guess not, because the Liberal Party has always been a coalition. Anyway, so then they made a joke saying, oh, well, in Queensland, we'll split the Liberal Party into, like everywhere else, the Liberal and National Party, and we can collect more money. Loophole confirmed. And now the biggest loophole of them all. Nominated entities give the major parties a way around donation caps. Well, would you look at that? You put in donation caps that are already skewed to your favor, and you put in a sweet, sweet little loophole to jump through. Not even little. Stroll through it. Exactly how these entities will work is unclear. Not great for a bill you've just passed. Cool. Glad we know about that. But we can look at how Victoria use this, because Victoria implemented rules very similar to this, and in Victoria they used it to give large amounts of money to major parties outside the donation cap that applied to everybody else. So it's rules for ye and none for me. That's the saying, isn't it? How do we improve this? Get the hell rid of it. This is just a loophole designed for those people who made the rules. So they've also introduced spending caps, and these have turned into more loopholes. Oh, come on. Stay with me. We're almost there. Like, I'll speed it up. All right. So each candidate has a spending cap of $800,000 per seat, per person, per electorate. But it only counts if you name the candidate. So if I am running in this electorate, I can say vote for Punter Conrad, and I can spend $800,000 on ads that reference me specifically. However, a political party can spend $800,000 saying vote for Anthony Albanese, but then in that same electorate, they can run ads saying vote Labor, and any ad that says vote Labor does not count. So if I'm running against Anthony Albanese, which I couldn't because I don't live in his electorate, which be a tight race, mate, I can only spend $800,000 because I am the brand, I am the political party. But Albo can spend $800K plus a couple mil more on ads that just say vote Labor. Now, once again, do we think that's fair? Are we cool with a system that rigs it towards the major parties over any independent politician running? In conclusion, the process has been rushed and deeply flawed. Yes, it has. You can sign a petition here. I'll put that in the show notes below. Let's just quickly get to the positives and then we'll wrap up. If you're still with me, you bloody need a medal. The bill widens the definitions of gift to include cash for access payments, closing their loophole. Great. They've opened a few big loopholes and closed one. I appreciate that. That is some improvement. It also lowers the donation disclosure threshold to $1,000. Fantastic. Now, people, when you donate more than $1,000, we get to see who bloody gave the money. And it brings in real-time donation disclosure. Because I don't know if you knew, but we have to wait, a year or two before we even know who donated any amount above $16,000. We never find out who donated below $16,000. And now we will in real time. So that is fantastic. Here's the thing with why I think we punts are bloody sick of politics. We're sick of your politicians because you play political power games. And that is what this bill is. What you do is you wrap up non-controversial. Everyone would get around this. Every independent, every minor party, even the major parties seem to be okay with these rules. They could just put this into a bill, wrap it up, and it would pass with everybody. It would be in straight away. There'd be no controversy around it. And then you can have a debate about whether you think this stuff is going to make the Australian political process better or worse. But they don't do that. They deliberately take stuff we need. We desperately need these rules to stop big bloody billionaires buying our politicians, which apparently they can keep doing anyway. But they wrap that up, what everyone wants, what everyone needs, in with a bill that they know is a scam. They know they are rigging the rules in their favor. And in order for us to get any sort of step forward, we have to take 3 steps backwards and potentially end in a worse position than we started with. So let's go with what these bills are likely to look like based on where it's happened elsewhere. Which leads us to the Victorian election. They brought in very similar rules to this, and independents were completely wiped out in that subsequent election. It is very difficult to compete against a machine that has 10x the resources that you do, right? So on the upside, there are some good things, one being among them, this mining billionaire who literally tried to buy an election. It just failed because I guess Aussie punters are smarter than that. When everyone knows who you are and you put your face on the billboard saying vote for me, you need a better propaganda campaign. So come chat to me. I'll give you some free advice. Actually, not free. You've got lots of money. You can pay for it. So they're saying it's to stop this bloke, and it will. Thankfully, that's great. But at what cost? So Labor are just hoping that you look at this bloke and you listen to their words where they say, we're getting money out of politics. They're not. They're just making sure they have more money from their donors than their competition. And as we pointed out, their real competition is coming from independent candidates who are sick of the gridlock and the political power games that these major parties are playing with them. And they want to force you into a position where you have less choices and they can just end up remaining in power. This is a bill for the status quo. It's not a bill for progress or change. Share this with a punter who might not know just how scammed we're getting. Massive thanks to We the Punters over on Patreon. These are the punters that keep me making videos that I think are important, like this one, even though they're really boring, and not just the videos that get the clicks. So if you would like to support the channel, you can jump over and pick up some merch on the Punters Politics website. Give the video a like, the channel a sub, please, and I will catch you punts in the next episode. Cheers, punts.